We are going to start. Four minutes, just 4 minutes. Si j'avais su moi, mais je rentrais pour moi défier. Mon frère, c'est notre argent. Okay, I'm thinking that we are going to start. First of all, I have to give the floor to Sumaya, who is the guest of this meeting. Sumaya.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for being here. I know it's early and it's struggling even to receive everybody on time, but I'm so happy to see you in this event. So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this, today's side event on galvanizing youth empowerment for sustainable solutions, land restoration and drought resilience toward agriculture and food security. My name is Sumaya Zadem. What? My name is...
Raise your voice, raise your voice.
Okay, can you hear me?
As you're in the morning.
Okay.
Okay, let's
Sorry.
go.
Okay, so my name is Sumaya Zadem. I'm a board member responsible of Foreign Affairs and External Relations of Arab Africa Council for Sustainable Development, and also the North Africa representative of Africa Youth Advisory Board on Disaster Risk Reduction and UNESCO consultant. So someone said, in order to carry a positive action, we must develop here a positive vision. Where there is no vision, the people perish. Today we are talking about youth. Youth are the main driver who carry a vision for a healthy planet with dignity and equality for all. Youth hopes are for a better future. Youth vision also requires for their voices to be heard in the decisions taken. In this regards, today we choose to focus on youth through this side event on the theme Galvanizing Youth Empowerment for Sustainable Solutions, Land Restoration and Drought Resilience for Food Security and Agriculture, which is hosted by the Youth Consortium. So before we move further, I would like to give a quick introduction to the theme and presentation about the host of this event, the Youth Consortium. The Youth Consortium is a new partnership between Arab Africa Council for Sustainable Development. It's an international organization based in Tunisia and Hired Consult based in Ghana. The Arab Africa Council for Sustainable Development was founded in 2016 in Tunisia. It's an NGO that creates a synergy of experts, academics, researchers, students to build a new vision in the global development of its components, economic, social, environmental, cultural, and scientific in the Arab and African region. The Hired Consult, it was founded on December 2018 in Ghana. It's a management consultancy with a youth-led social enterprise approach. It focuses on the most critical needs, problems, and creates sustainable solutions and opportunities through strategy, operation, and digital delivery across board. So the Youth Consortium is a new baby, just was created in last February. We wanted to act as one voice with projects lead to collaborate, engage, and execute projects across Africa and beyond. We have a lot of activities and projects, and we started with this with side event. So galvanizing youth empowerment for sustainable solutions just go with the theme of the UNCCD, land, life, legacy, from scarcity to prosperity. And our objectives for today is to identify challenges that encounter land degradation, neutrality, and interlinkages to food security, income, and hope for better future to the most vulnerable, especially women and children. Also to highlight the role of youth and civil society organizations in shaping a sustainable land agenda in the fight against desertification, land degradation, and drought. To discuss the use of monitoring and risk assessment tools to make drought-prone areas become more resilient, including early warning systems, and also to come up with effective solutions for restoring agricultural lands in order to increase crop yields and productivity, which could help the conversion of forests and grasslands into farmland and reverse biodiversity loss and best practices. So, ladies and gentlemen, we know that women and youth in land restoration and land resilience are the first and most affected by the impacts of desertification, land degradation, and drought. So it's important to engage with youth as key stakeholders and agents. That may be difficult, but it's vital, and integrate them as well as gender dimensions in conservation and restoration projects and programs. So welcome to today's side event. And now, and without further ado, I would like to give the floor to my colleague, Mr. Blondel Sileno. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sumaya. As a first speaker, I think we have a lot of guests here, a lot of best speakers coming from several countries in Africa. The first one going to be Mamadou Kouta, which is going to speak with us on how you aim and stream youth inclusion in continental policy. So, Mamadou, you have a floor.
Yeah, right here. Okay. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. First of all, let me start by thanking the organizer of this side event, the Youth Consortium, for inviting AU SAPGRAD to be part of the discussion. This is really appreciated. So SAPGRAD is one of the specialized technical office of the AU Commission under the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Sustainable Environment, and Blue Economy. And we are based in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. So we cannot agree more with the theme of this morning, galvanizing youth empowerment and drought resilience toward agriculture and food security, particularly when we are talking about the crucial role of youth in the development agenda of the continent, and also looking at the challenges that many member states are facing in terms of the environmental challenges. Maybe you can move to the next slide, please. I'm going to give a presentation which laid out a little bit a short overview of the AU policy framework on youth, and also try to see how we can utilize those framework in the implementation of the agenda of the Continental Agenda 2063, and in particular in the field of land degradation and reforestation, both at the national and regional level. My presentation will also highlight some of the key barriers on the youth involvement in land degradation and sustainable some sustainable solutions, and how we are going to explore those solutions. Yes, next slide, please. Let's say that Africa is, in terms of demography, the youngest continent in the world, with the young accounting for the highest proportion of the population. We must say that the proportion of the youth in Africa is estimated to be more than 70% of the population. But despite this significant number of youth, they remain excluded from the political and socio-economical arena. And this is where we need to be focusing our effort. So there is an appreciation that youth are significant dividend of the continent population, and they need to be included, in the decision-making process in various spaces, both, in terms of organization, in terms of putting in place the policies, and also in terms of how they're going to contribute efficiently in terms of actions to the decision that have to be taken. The next slide, please. Here I'm going to talk a little bit, one of the key framework that has been developed by the African Union. We call it the Charter, the Youth Charter of the African Union, which has been launched in 2006 in Banjul. This charter clearly states that the right, the duties and freedom of African youth. More specifically, the charter seeks to ensure the constructive involvement of youth in the development agenda of the continent, and also the effective participation in the debate and the decision-making process. This charter also set a framework to enable policymakers to mainstream youth issues in all the policy formulation and program as well. But I'm going to focus specifically in the two articles. 14.2 seeks to facilitate the participation of youth people in the design, the implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of national development plan, policy, and poverty reduction as well. And the second article, which seems to me is very important, it also noted one of the responsibility of youth as follows: to become a custodian of their own development. This is where we need to link the policy formulations and also the actions on the ground. So I think from there, we can say that at least there are the legal framework, because when you talk about charter is more like a kind of binding document. So at least we have this binding document that many member states have already ratified, and this gives the room for the youth organizations to get themselves involved in policy making processes and as well in program implementation. In the same vein, the head of state in 2011 have also adopted another charter on the value and principles of public service and administration. This document can also be seen as one of the complementary documents to the youth charter. The next slide, please. So we must also recognize that beside the commitment through those documents, the youth remain marginalized and excluded from the political and other decision-making processes, where when we know that 80% of the world, 1.2 billion young people are living in the region that are directly impacted by the land and natural resources for the substances. So land degradation could be seen clearly as the youth issues that strengthen current and future generation quality of life. So young people all over the world should be really participating in both policies and actions to avoid, minimize, and reverse land and ecosystem degradation. The next slide, please. The youth could also make their voice heard on multiple restoration policy platforms by taking actions, and also on themes as climate change, biodiversity, and of course on issues of desertification and land degradation. But we must also recognize that the ability of youth as act of change in the restoration is really impacted by the geographical and socio-economical settings, which definitely affect the access to education, knowledge, skills, land, funding required to engage in a meaningful way in land restoration. Now, let me just quickly come to some of the barriers. The next slide, please. In some of the barriers that, the next one. Yes, in some of the barriers that really impact the engagement, the effective engagement of youth in land restoration. Here, I'll try to enumerate some of them, which are not all, but it gives an idea of some of the barriers that really need to be addressed if we really need the young people to get involved in the land restoration and those challenges. The first one is inadequate education and awareness. We know that most of the people, particularly in the rural area, don't have the right education to really involve in land restoration. We have inadequate contextual capacity building. So we need to be also focusing on this particular aspect, not ignoring the insufficient income, the insecure land tenure, the gender constraints. We know that in some areas the gender issues is very critical, that prevent most of the young people to really have a great impact on land restoration. And we have also the usual constraint of inadequate financing system. The next slide, please. What could be the solutions to engage youth in land restoration? At least it's good to say that despite those barriers, young people can also become effectively engage in environmental activity through both their own initiatives, but also with the support with officials and government. So some of those solutions, try to enumerate them here. We need adequate education and capacity building of relevant skills, including digital communication. We need to build a strong partnership both with public and private stakeholders. We need also to develop the model for green businesses to incentivize and sustain the interests of young in land restoration. We know that most of the young people are very keen when it's coming to the business using this digital economies and so on. We also need to facilitate the access and improve the security of land tenure to young people. And also, we need to focus on some socio-cultural norms to include all the young people. The next slide, please. I've also enumerated some of the initiatives of young people that are already in place. it has associated with some of the UN conventions already in place. We have the platform. We have the platform for the Climate Change Convention, the Young Platform for the Biodiversity Convention. We have the one for the UNCCD, the one that we have currently. We have the one for the, I've tried to enumerate them here. But at the African Union Commission, we have what we call the AFR 100, which have also put in place some young initiatives platform to make sure that we bring the continent young association to be part of the process. The next one, please. I'm going to conclude here by saying that although the young people are a very vulnerable group, I think we need to recognize that they have underutilized, and there is always the room for us to improve the contribution to the land issues. From the policy perspective, both international organizations and national government could play a better role in putting the political climate in the effective manner to receive the young participation to the land restoration and desertification. I can also say that in terms of implementations, the role of the national government, the local authorities, the NGOs, private sector, and educational institutions cannot be understated. So this take me to the end of my presentation. I think I will stand ready to come with more clarifications and questions, if any. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mamadou. As we have a lot of people here speaking French, don't worry, I'm going to translate it for you, just a little bit, make a summarize on what Mamadou said. Je disais tantôt que Mamadou a abordé pleinement l'engagement, comment est-ce que l'Union africaine soutient et s'est engagée avec les jeunes dans le cadre de les autonomiser, de les accompagner. Permettez-moi déjà, vu qu'il y en a qui venaient d'arriver, de revenir sur un point majeur. La session d'aujourd'hui porte sur dynamiser l'autonomisation des jeunes pour des solutions durables dans la restauration, la résilience et la résilience à la sécheresse pour une agriculture et la sécurité alimentaire. Donc, Mamadou a abordé donc comme socle fondamental de l'engagement des jeunes au sein de l'Union africaine. Il a évoqué la charte de l'Union africaine. Il est revenu sur certains points clés de cette charte-là qui permet effectivement de traduire l'engagement des jeunes de manière pratique. So, I'm just translating. We have a lot of people here speaking French. So as you already understand in English, let me go ahead in French. So Mamadou est donc revenu sur comment l'Union africaine apporte sa contribution et comment est-ce qu'elle a pavé le chemin pour que l'engagement des jeunes soit effectif. Il a notamment abordé les freins à la participation des jeunes et est revenu sur des barrières, notamment il s'est appesanti sur l'éducation, l'accès à l'éducation qui reste un sérieux problème dans bon nombre de pays en Afrique, et cette éducation, ce manque d'éducation est responsable en effet de pas mal de maux. Il est revenu également sur la question des revenus insuffisants. Les jeunes, de nombreuses politiques sont prises pour permettre aux jeunes de s'engager, sauf que dans de nombreux pays, malheureusement, il n'y a pas de fonds de soutien et d'accompagnement effectif des initiatives portées par les jeunes, encore moins en matière d'agriculture et en matière d'agriculture. Donc, il a évoqué l'absence de compétences. Donc, pour une agriculture qui fait face au changement climatique, il y a des compétences qu'il faudrait développer, adapter les compétences au changement climatique. Cela demande un investissement dans la formation et le renforcement des capacités. Également, la question foncière est revenue dans le propos de Mamadou, puis il a abordé la question de la finance et est revenu aussi sur des enjeux liés au genre. On en parlait encore il y a quelques jours. La question de genre est de plus en plus cruciale dans le développement de notre agriculture. Il a également évoqué quelques solutions pour l'engagement, pour améliorer, comme on dit, le thème, comment dynamiser l'autonomisation des jeunes. Mamadou nous dit qu'il faudrait un fort partenariat, il faudrait renforcer l'éducation, accélérer le renforcement de capacités, mais aussi faciliter l'accès à la terre et développer des modèles de développement business vert. Et il a également évoqué à la fin de son propos les plateformes Yungo et les plateformes de biodiversité, le groupe majeur des jeunes le groupe majeur des jeunes qui est un cadre également à travers lequel les jeunes s'engagent dans la question de lutte contre la sécheresse pour accroître la production agricole, gage de notre sécurité alimentaire. Donc permettez-moi, très chers invités, de passer à notre second intervenant. C'est une charmante dame, elle est juste à mes côtés. Betty, you have a floor for the next step.
Okay, thank you. I was a little bit lost there when you ended with the French. It's lovely to be here and to be a youth. All protocols observed. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to tell you a story. When I was young, being allowed to play was seen as a reward, and farming-related activities like weeding and digging were more of a punishment and a survival option for a lot of us. Psychologically, this makes anything agriculture or anything associated with it less appealing and not involving. A good name is better than riches, my mother would tell me. Our current generation is getting richer and richer every day, stripping the next generation of their resources. So come to think of it, what name would this current generation have? I think the audience, you will tell me. My name is Betty Osei-Bonsu, and I'm the project coordinator for Green Africa Youth Organization. And today, I'll be speaking on the topic, youth effort towards land restoration and adapting to the impact of climate change. Next slide. So Green Africa Youth Organization, next. Good. Green Africa Youth Organization is a youth-led, gender-balanced advocacy group that focuses on environmental sustainability and community development. Over the years, our thematic areas encompasses climate change, disaster risk reduction, and circular economy. And the pictures displayed in front of you are some of the projects we've embarked on. And hopefully, at the end of my presentation, you get to understand some of the youth-led initiatives we've been doing in Ghana and scaling beyond to African countries. Next slide. Securing the future of our ecosystem, or the lifeline of this planet in this growing continent, with fast-paced development is not an easy task. Therefore, we would require more of a conscious effort to change our mentality and belief whilst fostering youth engagement to own the presence and march towards a sustainable future. And today, I'm glad to be one of those youth owning my present and advocating and creating solutions for a better future. Next slide. What is the major problem we face? One is that, oh, go ahead and pollute, just make sure when you are done, you can pay for it. And this is what we see every day. Gone are the days where you'd hold placards and demand for action or complain of problems. Now, we make the actions and contribute to solutions within our communities, especially leveraging on local and indigenous resources. Following this, the Green Africa Youth Organization over the past 2 years have been working with several youth now to galvanize efforts towards land restoration and adapting to the impact of climate change. We have expanded our portfolio in the areas of trees for biodiversity and water for adaptation. Next slide. Climate change is, next slide. Climate change is affecting us day in and day out. It's no longer globally, it's internationally, it's also locally. Here's a picture displayed in front of you of Ghana in the Upper Eastern region, where they face several issues, from deforestation to lack of water to gender inequality, when ladies are sided when it comes to education, or even involved when it comes to decision making. And when it comes to climate or weather conditions, it's a huge problem. Next slide. Our water for adaptation is one of the solutions we propose to tackle this issue. So this is designed to harness modern technologies to help farmers located in the arid regions of Ghana, northern region, to leverage irrigation solutions. This project has provided 2 mechanized drilled boreholes to serve smallholder farmers, communities, with water for irrigation and farming, as well as for domestic users. The pictures displayed are some of the activities we've done there and some of the boreholes we've launched. As such, this project has promoted agriculture within these arid areas, has created alternative livelihoods, and built the capacity of the individuals within the community for them to see a shift towards a 1.5 degrees lifestyle. This particular initiative sets women businesses and provides support for women entrepreneurs along the value chain of agriculture. Additionally, girl-child education and climate change awareness raising. This particular project has been able to train several young girls in the production of reusable sanitary pads. Because this is one issue that ladies within those areas face, where they do not have access to water to even clean themselves when they are on their menstrual period. Next slide. The next project in our portfolio is the Sustainable Community Project, which has aided our Trees for Biodiversity. This particular project is magnified in the area where we utilize waste and convert them to resources, like the production of fertilizers and compost, which serves as substrate for the tree seedlings we plant within urban areas and even in community local areas. With this, using the organic fertilizers produced from waste, we are able to support farmers to produce organic crops and also sustain their yields. This is creating alternative livelihood and jobs for many of the individuals within the community. Currently, we have over 70 employed from this project, as well as diverting waste from the landfill. The picture displayed in front of you, the first one, on my left, I'm the one standing there with the ladies producing the compost that you can see displayed on the rack. Next slide. So now this brings us to our Trees for Biodiversity. The Trees for Biodiversity initiative started 2020, and over the years we've been able to plant 10,500 tree seedlings within communities to restore biodiversity and build urban resilience whilst introducing indigenous trees. Within urban areas currently, indigenous trees are being cut down to put up buildings. And this is an initiative to introduce indigenous seedlings within the urban areas, so we are using the compost to support this initiative. With this, Guy look forward to scaling our efforts to other communities in Ghana and even abroad, to other countries in Africa. We therefore, as youth, see this opportunity to be great. We have a vision. All we need is a sustenance. We want more youth to come on board. We want more organization and the government to acknowledge our efforts and also support them. Next slide. In conclusion, I would like to say, we have the land to our disposal. For this, the meaning of life is defined. How we sustain it will be our legacy. It's either a now of scarcity to prosperity, or a future of prosperity to scarcity. Thank you very much.
I know that you are not already taking your breakfast. Please kindly give a real applause for this beautiful speech. Thank you, Betty. Thank you. Permettez-moi, pour ceux qui sont francophones, de revenir un tout petit peu sur la présentation de Betty. Betty, can you please put the first slide? The first one. No. Introduction. The headline. Okay. Youth effort toward land restoration and adapting to the impact of climate change. OK. Donc la présentation de Betty portait sur les témoignages pratiques de l'engagement des jeunes dans la restauration des terres et l'adaptation au changement climatique. Elle est revenue, donc elle dit pardon, c'est une chance d'être jeune, I believe on that. C'est une chance d'être jeune et en dépit des difficultés dont nous faisons face, il est important de montrer que les jeunes ont quand même des solutions à proposer. Donc malgré la difficulté, les jeunes réussissent à proposer des alternatives pour s'en sortir. Ainsi, elle va aborder donc la question sur différentes thématiques, notamment à travers l'engagement au sein de son pays. Betty est donc revenue sur les thématiques de son organisation, accès au changement climatique, sur les thématiques de son organisation. Elle est revenue donc sur les changements climatiques, le développement durable, l'économie circulaire. Il faut dire que l'économie circulaire est un pilier important du développement durable. Elle a évoqué les problèmes de pollution, de compensation. Elle dit également, nous faisons des actions autour de l'eau, donc elle travaille sur la question de l'eau. You are working on the water issue. Elle dit qu'elle travaille également sur des questions d'adaptation, sur le reboisement et la biodiversité comme solution pour lutter contre les changements climatiques. Elle évoque le fait que l'impact des changements climatiques au Ghana accentue les inégalités de genre à tous les niveaux. I believe on that. Climate change have an impact on gender issues. Elle dit également qu'il existe des solutions locales et ces solutions locales tournent autour de l'accès à l'eau et de l'adaptation. Elle est revenue sur des activités de plantation d'arbres. Elle dit les arbres pour la biodiversité, pour renforcer la résilience urbaine, et il faut des arbres pour renforcer la biodiversité et renforcer la résilience urbaine avec des agriculteurs, et cela crée des emplois, ce qui est tout à fait évident et tout à fait vrai. Alors, on ne va pas s'arrêter là, on était au Ghana et on va rapidement remonter un tout petit peu vers le Sahel. Il fait un peu plus chaud là-bas, un peu comme ici à Abidjan depuis quelques temps. We are going to move from Ghana to Niger, where young people also have a lot of activities there and have a lot of things to share with us today. So let me give the floor to Mr. Sani Ayuba, which is Executive Director of Young Volunteer for Environment in Niger. Sani, you have a floor.
Okay, thank you very much, Blondel. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for all of us to be here. Comme j'ai la facilité de parler français et anglais, j'utiliserai les deux langues pour permettre surtout à la grande délégation du Niger ici présente de pouvoir participer après lors des échanges. Donc, my name is Sani Ayuba. I'm leading a young volunteer for environment in Niger. It's a youth-led movement based in more than 20 countries in Africa. So we are here for colleagues from more than 6 countries. So I think it's a great opportunity for me to be here and share our experiences based in youth engagement in terms of degraded land activities. So can you go, please? Okay. Next slide again, because I don't have too much time. So what can be the youth role? Because I want to go deeply on the topic. For us, based on our experience, we think that we have to consider youth as a kind of stage of innovation. Youth is a strength and action to restore degraded lands. Youth have also this capacity to influence the public policies. And it's also important in terms of CSOs and youth role to see the dialogue and also the knowledge sharing with the various actors that youth can lead also. And that's also a kind of, for us, this issue of degraded land and desertification issue, youth are dynamic in the digital sector. When it's come to share a kind of experience based in Sahel, youth people are facing many challenges like everywhere in the world. But our main issue is like a kind of population that is majority living in rural areas. So we have more than 70% of the population that are living in rural area. So their main activities are based on agriculture and animal husbandry. So it's normal when we are facing to like some crisis like climate change and security issue that our youth people have to address all those challenges. So for a kind of organization like ours, we try to mobilize young people at community level to develop some local initiative that allow them not to move or to join some extremist violent group, but to stay at their community and try to stay more resilient and build some activities. So ici, quand il faut parler du rôle des jeunes et de la société civile pour promouvoir des solutions de développement durable, il est important de rappeler que dans des pays du Sahel, en général et au Niger, nous avons plus de 70% de la population qui est jeune et qui vit en milieu rural. Et cette population fait face à d'énormes difficultés. Et en plus de ces difficultés, il y a la question de la sécurité alimentaire, la question des activités, parce qu'en milieu rural, les activités sont majoritairement basées sur l'agriculture et l'élevage. Donc nous essayons, à travers nos activités, de promouvoir des actions permettant aux jeunes de rester, de ne pas migrer, mais surtout de contribuer à la restauration des terres dégradées, de promouvoir des activités de restauration des terres. Next slide, please. It's important for us also to maintain a kind of dialogue and engagement with private sector and other stakeholders, because we know that it's not easy to continue or to develop some solution alone. That's why it's very important to have this kind of multi-stakeholder dialogue with private sector and other actors. So that's allow also to contribute to reduce like some false solution in favor of ecological sustainable solution, and that's develop also some induced activities, because that's reduce again some few negative impact on the environment, and that can allow us to develop some attractive option economically. It's very important to develop this kind of partnership with private sector. We know it's not easy sometimes to have this kind of social or other youth organization to have a partnership with the private sector, but we think that's a way to go on, a way to invest, a way to elaborate some strategy on that. Nous pensons qu'il est important de développer un dialogue avec le secteur privé et les autres acteurs. Cela permettra non seulement de lutter contre les fausses solutions face à la dégradation des terres ou au changement climatique, mais cela permettra aussi de développer plus d'activités économiques de revenus. Cela non seulement permettra, nous avons vu cela au Niger, dans le cadre d'autres initiatives qui permettent surtout aux jeunes non seulement de développer des entreprises sociales, mais cela permettra aussi de répondre à certains problèmes dont ils font face. Et cela permet également de développer des opportunités d'investissement quand il y a cette relation entre le secteur privé et les structures communautaires ou les organisations de la société civile. The next slide, please. When it's come to talk also how to involve youth and CSO to concrete action to the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration 2021 and 2013, we think it's very important to see how young people and women can be considered in addition to be not all, because we used to have to consider youth and women sometimes as just a kind of beneficiary of some activities and initiative of development. We think it's very important to consider that as partner and as also key actor that can that's allow them to have a kind of ownership of the objective of this decade. It's very important to consider and to help young people to play their role in this initiative. Quand il faut parler de la décennie des Nations Unies sur la restauration des écosystèmes 2021-2030, nous pensons qu'il est important de considérer les jeunes et les femmes comme des acteurs clés, des acteurs majeurs, pas seulement comme des bénéficiaires de l'ensemble de ces stratégies ou de ces initiatives. Donc, dans nos interventions, nous continuons les plaidoyer pour que les jeunes et les femmes puissent rester autour de la table des négociations et jouer leur rôle en tant que partenaires et bénéficiaires en même temps. The next slide, please. When it's come to share like some best practice in our side, we think it's very important to see some example that we have at country level in terms of recovery of degraded land, reforestation. We call it here in Niger assisted natural regeneration, practice of agroecology. We think that these are the kind of activities that when young people are involved inside, they can be more resilient and they can play a kind of sustainable role in the process of development. Nous pensons qu'en termes de bonnes pratiques, nous avons plusieurs, mais cela se résume au niveau de ces 4 aspects. La régénération naturelle assistée, qui est une pratique très répandue au Niger, qui permet non seulement de développer les sols, mais c'est également des actions qui permettent de renforcer, comme je l'ai dit, la reforestation et la pratique de l'agroécologie qui ne doit plus être comme une thématique juste de mode, mais une thématique très importante que les jeunes doivent s'approprier et véritablement travailler dans ce sens. La question aussi de la restauration des terres dégradées est une opportunité que nous continuons de saisir, bien qu'au Niger, il y a plus de 100 000 hectares qui sont perdus chaque année, mais la stratégie nationale en matière de récupération des terres dégradées prévoit de récupérer presque 3. Try to deeply develop this nexus, because sometimes we have several activities but that can help to achieve the same goals, but people are not working together. There is no synergy between all those aspects. So that's why it's very important to see how we can work together and develop a kind of synergy between these nexus. S'il faut parler du nexus entre l'alimentation, l'énergie, les forêts et les écosystèmes, nous pensons que c'est une thématique, c'est un nexus très important. Malgré que nous travaillons sur plusieurs sujets, ce nexus n'est pas assez développé et il est important de voir comment renforcer cette synergie, parce qu'il y a véritablement un lien entre la question de l'eau, de l'alimentation, de l'énergie, des forêts et des écosystèmes. Donc nous encourageons en tout cas les partenaires à investir dans ce sens pour développer des stratégies permettant d'améliorer ces nexus. The last slide. And merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. I will be here if there are some questions. Je reste disponible s'il y a des questions.
Nothing to say about this presentation.
You have to say.
Just that was really, really amazing. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we have another speaker, which coming from the north of Africa, I think that. Let me introduce to you Dr. Abi. Abi, you have a floor.
Thank you very much, Sumaya and Silonel. It's absolutely a pleasure to be talking here with you about youth empowerment for sustainable solutions, land restoration and drought resilience, droughts, agriculture and food security. Through my presentation, I will speak from a regional perspective. So I will introduce myself. I am Abir Barandam and I am working as an environmental expert at Sahara and Sahel Observatory. So through my presentation, I will start my presentation with a short description of our organizations and their achievement regarding sustainable solutions, land restoration, and drought resilience, and how can youth be involved in the and supporting youth through these important issues. So next slide, please. So Sahara and Sahel Observatory, it's an international organization with an African vocations. It has 25 African countries from West Africa, Central Africa, and North Africa. Our mission is the provision of tools and resources to support decision on addressing land degradation issues like conservation, sustainable management, rehabilitation, and restoration of land resources. We are working also on fostering partnerships related to shared water resources management. And finally, in the implementation of international agreements on climate change, desertification, and biodiversity. Next slide. So since 2020, we have a new strategy. In this strategy, we have 4 scientific and technical programs in 4 main axes. Land, we are working on observation, monitoring, evaluation, sustainable land management. Also for water, we are working specifically on knowledge enhancement, consultations mechanism, and sustainable water resources management. For climate, we are working on adaptation, mitigation, and access to climate finance, since OSS is accredited to Green Climate Fund and Adaptation Fund. And we have a new axe, it's a biodiversity axe. Through this axe, we are promoting ecosystem restoration. Through our OSS approach is based on analysis, monitoring, and early warning systems through the estimation of land degradation hotspots and loss of ecosystem function and productivity, and finally for the development of decision support system from at a regional level. Next slide. Regarding our thematic today, so the main OSS achievements are providing tools, specifically on assessing the vulnerabilities of ecosystem and population, implementing adaptation actions, and providing timely and accurate climate information. Next slide, please. Yes. Also through sharing knowledge, we provide large-scale mapping, for example, on the desertifications, and knowledge sharing and capacity building tools for youth, for private, for local communities through our different capacity building sessions. And we have, for example, we have 3, the next slide, Sumaya, please. And we have 3 regional initiatives that I will talk now. We have a new program, it's called RICOAS. It will be implemented in West Africa. This new initiative, it's focusing on scaling up climate resilience rice production in West Africa to ensure food security, involvement of all stakeholders, youth and women in this process, and ensuring sustainable land and water management. The second regional initiatives, it's the project Adapt to Up. It's implemented in Benin, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Through this project, we are implementing multi-hazard early warning systems and we are aiming and we are aiming the improvement of the livelihood of local communities and ecosystem and protected area. The third regional initiatives, it's the project DRESS EA. It's the project DRESS EA. Implemented in Djibouti, Kenya, Uganda, and Sudan. Through this project, we are aiming sustainable land and water management. This project also aimed to improve the ecosystems surfaces and land restoration. So for the success of all these initiatives, the implementation of projects is highly dependent of the involvement and the contribution of youth and gender. And I will give some points of conclusion. Youth must be, the next slide, sorry. The youth must be supported in several ways, specifically through capacity building, involvement in decision support process, and access to funds for local actions and national or regional initiatives. Also, youth must be regularly sensitized on the importance of sustainable land management actions, and they will be aware of their mission and sectors in which they can contribute to land restoration activities and actions through a specific agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you.
Je crois que nous allons très rapidement passer au petit résumé revenant sur la présentation du Dr Abi qui bosse pour l'Observatoire du Sahel-Sahara avec 25 pays membres. Elle propose des outils et ressources pour la gestion des ressources naturelles, la dégradation des terres. Donc elle a rappelé les approches, les actions, les stratégies avec les domaines d'intervention. Elle est revenue également sur les réalisations concernant le sujet du jour. Elle évoque le fait qu'il y a eu des études sur la vulnérabilité, sur des écosystèmes et les populations. Elle a également parlé de la cartographie à large échelle de la désertification. Le docteur Abi nous a également entretenu dans son propos. Elle évoquait le fait qu'il y a des initiatives régionales sur la sécurité alimentaire autour de la production de riz. Elle a notamment parlé de Adapt One sur les alertes précoces et la gestion durable des terres et de l'eau. Donc, en guise de conclusion, elle estime que les jeunes doivent être soutenus. C'est le même mot. Et que il est très important et surtout très capital de renforcer les capacités et l'accès au financement. Indubitablement, nous revenons sur le fait que l'accès au financement constitue l'une des épines dans la chaussure de l'avancée et de la jeunesse en quête de mieux-être. Donc, chers participants, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to the next one. I think the next one is Mr. Almani. Where is Mr. Almani? Okay. I'm looking for you because I'm thinking that I have another speaker here. So Mr. Almani going to talking about how involving every youth and civil society to the concrete action in the UN decade and on ecosystem restoration. You have a floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Almami. I come from the Gambia.
Can you please speak in the mic?
Good morning. My name is Almami.
We're still not getting you.
Then it's I'm really used to speaking loud, really. Then it's
okay, but we need to have your voice in our head, so go in the mic. Maybe our technical officer have to help you to have another. Okay, good.
Hello? Yes. Is that good?
That's good now.
Okay, good morning.
Morning.
My name is Almami. I come from the Gambia. I'm going to make a brief presentation, but first let me also thank the colleagues, the organizers of this event, and then I also thank the previous panelists, the presenters, for the job well done, and then we appreciate your presence here. I really try to modify. We are not only talking about the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration. We have other initiatives at the regional level. I work for the African Union for some time, so I am a real bit Pan-Africanist. So I will mention some of the regional initiatives we have in addition to the UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration. Next, yeah. So that's the format of the presentation. I will have the preambles, then look at the opportunities for involving youth in ecosystem restoration and the challenges, and then we will end up with the way forward regarding my suggestions. Next slide, please. Just, a kind of a definition of here. The youth age is an important transitional phase in a person's development, whereby the person becomes progressively responsible. The youth's potential to contribute to sustainable ecosystem management and restoration is determined by a whole set of biophysical, socio-cultural, environmental, and economic factors which vary from one region to another. So far, we have not been able to take full advantage of the potential of youth to upscale land restoration and sustainable land management. But we must understand that an average youth today has high aspirations to succeed in all aspects of life in the shortest time possible, and he or she wants to be independent as rapidly as possible. So meaning that youths don't have time. Youths are in a haste, to be where we are now today. I'm driving a car, then the youth also wants to drive a car. So that sort of high expectation, really, if not well managed, may land you into some difficulties. And then we have seen that this is leading to a bit of frustration on the part of the youth, resulting in some youths giving way into other devices like drugs, and things like, and illegal migration. We have seen that especially in this part of West Africa, in the Sahel. I come from the Gambia, where illegal migration is really a problem, and then it's a growing phenomenon in that area, and including Ivory Coast also. So, learning from the above, the youth will not undertake ecosystem restoration for the sake of it. They will do it for a purpose. It must meet their desire, their goals. So if you are planning ecosystem restoration with the youth, you must make sure that it serves their purpose. They are not doing it just for the sake of it. And then I don't blame them for that. I think that's a very strong rationale, really. It's also a fact that in the past, or even presently, policy and structural failures, are real serious challenges. We have on a high level of youth unemployment and a high level of underutilization of the potentials of youth. And then this is really what is creating that kind of that sense of hopelessness in many youths. They don't see a future in their own countries. For example, in the Gambia, you have an average boy of 15 years, he wants to go to Europe. You know, he doesn't even want to go to school. But we must be frank to ourselves. It is in our common interest to make sure that we capitalize on the potential.
Please, a minute. Can you please speak in the microphone? There's a lot of people who are not getting you. Okay, good.
Okay. Then on top of that, one of the main justifications for advocating for youth involvement in ecosystem restoration is the fact that our farming population is aging. So I need double here.
Okay, now you're a president.
Thank you. Yes, so our farming population is aging, is really critical for us to really encourage our youths to be involved in the agricultural sector, in the environment and natural resource sectors too. For us really to maintain our goal of poverty alleviation, ensuring food security on the continent. But we must also understand that involvement or doing ecosystem restoration, it requires capital, it requires time, it requires innovation. Luckily, the youth, they have the time, they have the innovation, but in many instances, they don't have the capital. The capital also it will include land and other things. Capacity, training, as contextual training that Mahmoud Kotu of Savgrad mentioned. Therefore, it is incumbent on our government to take deliberate and urgent actions, and partners as well, you know, to upscale, to enhance youth access to land and build their capacities for sustainable land restoration. What are the opportunities? Both at the global and regional level, our moderator talk about the UN decade on ecosystem restoration, 2020 to 2030. But we also have the Bond Challenge, which aims to restore 150 million hectares of degraded land across the world. Coming to Africa, we have AFR 100 being coordinated by the African Union and NEPAD in South Africa, but which is part of the Bond Challenge. We also have the Great Green Wall for the Sahara and the Sahel Initiative, an African Union-led initiative, mainly promoting sustainable livelihood, sustainable land management, adaptation to climate change, conservation of biodiversity, and combating desertification from Dhaka to Djibouti. We have the Pan-African Agency in Nouakchott, and we have AUC Coordination Office in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Now the initiative is already been expanded to the SADC region, the Southern African region, Southern African Economic Development Community, SADC region. We also have the LDN targets of the SDG goal number 15. And in Egypt in 2018, the African Ministers of Environment adopted the Pan-African Action Agenda, Pan-African Action Agenda on ecosystem restoration for increased resilience in Africa. So these are important regional initiatives regarding ecosystem or sustainable land management. So I have a footnote here. These initiatives, for these initiatives to succeed, we need to meaningfully involve the youth. Meaning, we have to have both male and female. When we talk about youth, we are referring to both male and female. So their involvement is critical in order for us to achieve this to implement this regional and global initiative on land restoration. Next. Yeah. So Africa, we have a lot of agricultural land. However, nearly 30% of this land is facing threats of degradation due to demographic pressure, overgrazing, unsuitable agricultural practices, and then the use of firewood and charcoal in many countries is really a big challenge for forest resource conservation. And another opportunity is, of course, is the fact that many of the youths in our countries have rural background. So the issue of land management, forest management are not new to them, you know. So it will not be very difficult, really, to bring them on board. Okay, the moderator is indicating that I need to run fast. Okay, so the challenges, many of these have been mentioned already. We have the land tenure barriers there. We have the inadequate mentoring and supervision, less emphasis on environmental education in our school curriculum, lack of capital, both funding and then land and access to land, low investment by our governments in sustainable land management, and then the relative low level of profitability for agricultural production. Agriculture is no longer becoming very viable in many countries. In Gambia, farmers would produce, and then to market their produce becomes a big problem. So that is a very big discouragement for farmers to continue. So if you ask the son of the farmer or the daughter of the farmer to continue they are growing the same crop, then you will have an issue, really. Next, please. Okay. And then agriculture and many land-based productive activities still remain labor-intensive and rudimentary in many parts of our continent. In AU, there was an initiative launched in Ouagadougou some 2 years back, where they want to put the hoe in the museum. You know, Madam Josepha Commissioner's initiative. I think it is a very novel initiative, really. We must mechanize agriculture. We don't expect the youth to be tilling the land that their fathers and mothers were doing. So we really have to modernize. Next, please. Okay. Again, one of the challenges again is climate change. We want to, as much as we want to do restoration, tree planting, and so forth, we must be aware of the limitation being imposed by climate change. In many parts of the Sahel, tree planting is being constrained because of lack of water. You know, where we used to plant trees 20 years ago, you can no longer plant trees in those areas now because the water, the amount of water is not sufficient. The rainy season is becoming too short. It used to be 1,200 millimeters in the Gambia 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Now it's far less. It's about 800 millimeters now per year. So in some parts of the Gambia, you cannot really plant native exotic species. You must go for native species. Yeah. So the opportunity for planting is becoming really compressed now. Drought is becoming more frequent, and then bushfires, and then overgrazing remain major challenges for maintaining the vegetation cover. Next, please. Way forward, number 4. Yeah. Okay. So government must undertake and implement large-scale ecosystem restoration programs to facilitate the participation of the youth and women. And when women too, we must emphasize. I'm happy that Kotu mentioned about the gender dimension of it. This is very important. So we cannot afford to leave the women behind. And in fact, they have proven that when they are involved, and the success rate is very high. So we have to capitalize on that. We must also upscale programs on youth mentorship orientation and then internship for youths, to build their capacity. Okay. And we must improve land tenure systems to open the space so that our youth population can have access to land, they can own land, and then to do green enterprises as mentioned before. Okay. So, next, yeah.
Almani, we do not have a lot of time. I don't know how to do that, but please kindly go to the conclusion.
Yeah. I am almost concluded. It's fine there. It's fine there. So here, students must be encouraged because it's also an issue. If you go to the universities now, pure science subjects like forestry are no longer there. You have a lot of new curriculum at the level, at the university and college levels. General environmental science. Pure forestry is becoming difficult in many universities. So we must encourage students also to undertake, degree courses in environment, in natural resources. So, yeah. Last one, please. I think the last one. Okay, thank you.
We thank you too. Please give an applause to Mr. Almani. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is going really, really fast, and we have to moving forward quickly. So let me summarize rapidly what our friend from the Gambia. Just realized that even the country is small, it can have a lot of problems, facing a lot of situation. So let us move for the translation, a little bit translation on what Almani said. So Almani est rapidement revenu sur quelques points importants dans sa présentation. Il a évoqué notamment les questions liées à l'intégration des jeunes dans la transition progressive vers... Il a évoqué la jeunesse comme étant une étape transitoire qui permet d'aller vers la responsabilité. C'était ça son tout premier propos. Par la suite, il a mentionné le fait que la jeunesse a des attentes et des aspirations pour réussir. Également, il est revenu sur le fait que la restauration des terres doit répondre aux besoins et aux aspirations des jeunes, étant donné que cette jeunesse-là est garante de l'avenir. Il a évoqué des opportunités qu'on pourrait retrouver à travers des différents programmes. Il a mentionné la décennie de la restauration, il a mentionné le projet AF100. Il a mentionné également la Grande Muraille Verte comme étant des opportunités pour la jeunesse. Il dit nous devons nous engager et nous impliquer pleinement avec la jeunesse pour accomplir ces initiatives. L'Afrique a beaucoup de terres agricoles qui sont hélas confrontées à la dégradation, au feu de brousse. Almani est revenu en termes de défis comme sur les changements climatiques et la question foncière. Donc en termes de mots de fin, il a abordé les voies d'engagement, comme il a mentionné le fait qu'il faudrait rapidement renforcer les capacités des jeunes et améliorer la question foncière pour faciliter l'accès aux jeunes au foncier. Il a, en guise de mot de fin, abordé la question de formation à travers la révision des curricula. Merci, Almani. Thank you, Almani, for this beautiful presentation. We are going to have just 2 questions because the time is already finished. And I already got one here because he already sent the message. And 1, 2, 3. Quickly, be brief. Okay, you are the first. You are the first. Going ahead.
Okay, hello. Am I audible? Okay. So actually I have just a simple question based on my experience. Actually I am representing Bangladesh. My organization is DYDF. We are working with youth in Bangladesh and South Asia. My question is very specific after seeing the different presentations, that when we are talking about the restoration, drought resilience and green jobs, is there have any such united platform? Because we are doing great things in different parts of the world, but still we are not united. So when we are doing advocacy and we are actually negotiating with our governments, actually it's not working properly because we cannot force them. So main thing is we need to emphasize on the coordination, which is missing yet. And also, I want to bring attention on the united movement of youth organization, because you know that in many countries, youths are don't getting the proper access. Policy level, and even resources are also very limited. In Bangladesh and South Asia, we are continuously fighting with the different sort of natural calamities. Youths are getting every day, they are doing almost landless. They are actually decreasing their jobs.
Please.
So I am actually
summarize.
just asking that we need to focus, rather than doing good practice, we need to focus on the united platform, which is the very important when we are actually talking about the desertification and other things. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Je voulais mentionner véritablement, soyez bref, si vous ne voulez pas véritablement que vous soyez coupé. OK? On va aller assez rapidement.
Merci beaucoup. Moi, en fait, ce n'est pas du tout, c'est pas en fait une question, mais plutôt, je ne sais pas comment je peux l'appeler. Je vais commencer par sa présentation. Quand il a parlé du stade de la jeunesse, vous êtes pressés, vous les jeunes de maintenant. Allez doucement. Vous ne pouvez pas nous bousculer comme ça. Et pour nous bousculer là, il faut un changement de mentalité.
I think that I have to translate it.
Non, s'il vous plaît, une minute. Je sais que et les jeunes et les femmes, chez nous, ils sont fortement intégrés. La dame du Ghana, madame, I've been to Bolgatanga. So I see what you are doing there. Oui. Monsieur du Niger, je suis du Niger aussi. Je sais comment les jeunes sont impliqués. Je sais comment les jeunes sont impliqués et les femmes, s'il vous plaît. Le problème qui se pose ici, c'est que comment aller avec, d'une part, nous les vieux, qui n'avons aucune ambition de changer, sur ce qu'on a bâti durant combien d'années, et vous les jeunes qui veulent nous bousculer, et de l'autre côté, les partenaires. Comment faire la jonction entre ces trois options pour qu'effectivement, on arrive à faire en sorte que ces jeunes-là accèdent au financement des trois conventions de Rio en général et de tout le système en particulier. À mon avis, c'est ça qui doit être ce challenge. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. The next speaker. Let me just translate. It was speaking about how to moving forward with elders. How can we integrate elders in our strategy to moving forward so that we can moving together and facilitate access to the finance for young people. That's just a summarize on what he said.
Okay, thank you. I have just a short question.
Can you please speak in the mic? In the mic, we are not getting you.
Okay. Do you have used a new technology and land restoration mitigating the effect of climate change? Any
in the microphone, please. We are not getting you.
Maybe it's just not working. Okay, I'm talking about the new technology could be used in your project, land combat land degradation or restoring the land or combat the effect of climate change. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. The next one.
Yeah, thank you very much for all your very excellent presentation. I have just two questions. One on the challenges that young organizations are facing is really having access to financial resources at the international or whether national institutions. So, for example, according to you, how do you do, for example, to have access more to financial resources so that to, go ahead and do you more in your effort? That's the first question. The second is related to young involvement in decision-making process, for example, policy framework. So I know is also one of the key problems that young organizations are facing. So how do you do to accelerate young involvement in decision-making process like policy development and so? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are going to answer the question. We are going to answer to your question. The lady are going to give you, Betty going to give you some idea or some, how can we say that? She's going to answer to you.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a brilliant question from your end on a united platform for youth. With respect to that, this is a model that is being done and currently is being done in Ghana, where we've implemented a Youth Climate Council. This Youth Climate Council is a unified front for youthful organizations or youth-led organizations to come together and influence policies. So even with this particular organization, we're able to host the local conference of youth, which we submitted to COI, the Conference of Youth, and then COI submitted to COP with respect to Yongo. I'm sure you are aware of Yongo. So with this particular platform, we are using this platform to build a capacity of youth in Ghana to present them as a unified front. So every document we do is in consultation with them. In every region, we have representative, youth local representative in every region in Ghana. So they submit all the various consultative meetings to us, and then together we're able to submit the policy we want or submit whatever request we want to the government. And this is how we are able to create that particular inclusive forum in Ghana with respect to youth engagement.
Thank you. The next one is Mr. Mamadou.
Okay, so yes, let me quickly try to respond to the question related to the how we can accelerate the policy making process. At African Union level, what we do is like we're putting the guidelines for the countries. You know, we have put in place the youth charter. This is something at the African Union level. But now it's up to the countries. I think likely this charter has been ratified by 39 countries. So we still have some country left to ratify the charter. But from that point, the country has to mainstream the charter to the national policy. So the challenge now is to make sure that the member state, at the member state level, this charter is mainstreamed to the national plans and policies. And from that point, the youth association can take up the issues and make sure that in terms of how the policy are formulated at the national level is taken into account the youth issues and the challenges. Yeah, so basically it's now up to the national policy to cut the project and make them mainstream to the plans.
Thank you, Mr. Mamadou. Mr. Almani, I'm coming to you. So, in one word, what can you say after that question? Yeah. You.
The finance issue that he raised, how would you enhance the youth access to finance?
Yeah.
I would advise that these youth organizations, they work with the national agencies, departments. If you look critically, in many places you have kind of, the trust between these youth organizations and the national agencies, departments, it's not that good. So, because most of you, for many of these meetings, they are sponsored by agencies outside your countries. So you need really to work, because there is a lot of resources at the national level. In fact, they don't have capacity to spend money on climate care and desertification. So if you should work together with them, develop a common sort of joint action program at national level. There is really some resources in many of the countries at the national level to support youths. But the challenge is, in my understanding, you don't have that kind of good working relationship. We must improve that.
Thank you, Mr. Almani. So we arrive at the end, but before moving from this room, we have a last speaker, And last of the last speaker, the last but not the least. So let me introduce, mais avant de passer à toi, Sani, je reviens, il y a le monsieur qui a parlé de la question sur les technologies. C'est à cette question que M. Almani répondait. Il parlait de comment intégrer les technologies dans des solutions climatiques. Pour M. Almani, il est question de travailler avec des agences de développement, ce qui pourrait faciliter la chose. Donc, je prends Sani et après, nous avons notre organisatrice de ce grand événement qui va prendre la parole pour le mot de fin.
No, I just want maybe share the experience about the using of technology. In Niger, we have a project called Regreening Africa. I think it's a Pan-African project leading in Niger by World Vision, represented here by Mr. Hamed. They develop like a kind of digital platform for reforestation in rural areas. So the people that doesn't went to school, they have access to smartphone. They use them. They have the apps. It's for free. And when they went to plant trees or doing some restoration of the land, they put the data on this. So the platform allowed them to have access to what they are doing in rural area. This is a kind of innovative that I think is good to share. Maybe Hamed can share later. We have the contact of all the participants. We have another experience using technology for the payment of ecosystem services. This is a kind of project that we have in Burkina and Sahel that allow people, when they take care of trees that they plant, they can be paid by mobile phone, mobile money. So this is the kind of experience that is very important to know that we still start doing at local level. J'ai juste ajouté la question du paiement des services écosystémiques que nous avons un projet au Niger qui permet aux jeunes, en plantant des arbres et en les entretenant, ils peuvent recevoir du paiement mobile, mais également World Vision avec le projet Reverdir Africa qui donne des smartphones en milieu rural pour que les gens puissent prendre des coordonnées et des données par rapport à la croissance des espèces plantées, mais également par rapport aux ouvrages qui ont été effectués dans le cadre de la restauration des terres dégradées. On peut partager ces documents plus tard sur la base de ceux qui sont enregistrés. Merci.
Merci, Sani. Soumaya for the last word.
Thank you. I'm being honest, it's really impressive that having all these amazing presentations and interventions, and I'm hearing a lot of questions related to youth integration, and we keep having these challenges across Africa and other corners in the world. It's important to integrate youth and women in decision making and to hear their voices. I can even talk from my position as North Africa representative of Africa Youth Advisory Board on Disaster Risk Reduction of the African Union. It's a network launched by African Union and UNDRR. And I cannot hide that we have challenges to be in touch with decision makers. But we need solutions. We need, we are gathering today just to find solutions, how we can make, how can we make impact from youth perspective. We came to the end, but before we close, I want to give the last word to our representative and co-partner Gayo, Ms. Betty, for her solidarity speech, just briefly.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Gayo, we find it timely to be part of this particular event and also co-sponsoring this side event on galvanizing youth empowerment for sustainable solution. We are happy that we are getting the voices of youth being heard, and we are happy that they are being included in spaces like this. We see how very, very involving and important this particular occasion is, and we look forward to scaling this effort, not only to this place, but to other locations. As I said earlier, we need more youth, we need more voices. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you
so much.
Soumaya, I'm going to close the session. Do you have anything to say?
Yes, I want just to thank all our partners and co-organizers GAIO, the Green Africa Youth Organization, the Greener Impact International, the FDB, African Union Semi-Arid Food Grain Research and Development, SAFGRAD, and Sahara and Sahel Observatory, African Biodiversity Conservation Network, Young Volunteers for the Environment Organization. Thank you so much for your support today. And on behalf of the Youth Consortium, thank you for joining us today. We hope to find our side event effective and useful, and have a wonderful day. I want to have a photo, of a group photo, if you don't mind, so we can share it later. Thank
it
you.
will be it's a good idea. So, ladies and gentlemen, see you next time for another session. Goodbye.